Mic check 1 2. Hey friends, this is gldnXross, co-founder of Pixelcraft Studios and one of the summoners of AavegotchiDAO. I'm very happy today to be here with you, looking into another edition of Aavegotchi Explores. This is where the AavegotchiDAO can have conversations with others building in the DAO infrastructure space. And along the way, we all discover tooling that is valuable and useful for everyone in the DAO space, regardless of whether or not you're part of Aavegotchi. So a quick intro about Aavegotchi. Aavegotchi is one of the oldest DAOs and also one of the most prolific and active. We have been live since September of 2020 when the DAO launched via a governance token bonding curve for the GHST token on Ethereum. And a few months after that, we migrated as a community over to Polygon Network and to launch our NFTs, the Aavegotchi avatars, which are many things. They are DeFi, they are piggy banks for ERC20 tokens, and they are experience point earning social creatures that actually level up as they vote in the DAO and interact at community events. So with that, we are always striving to improve the DAO. And one of the best ways to do that is to provide better infrastructure. And so we're going to be the curious, enthusiastic explorers today as we learn more about some of the potential and powerful use cases and tools in the space. Today, we're joined by the Wonderverse project, which I've heard nothing but good things about. And today, Ed, the head of partnerships from Wonderverse, is with us. So let's get right into it. And Ed, thank you for being with us today. And love to learn more about Wonderverse and how Wonderverse's technology platform can benefit the various DAOs that are growing in the ecosystem today.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me today. Hi everyone. My name is Ed. I'm the head of partnerships at Wonderverse. At Wonderverse, we're building the coordination layer for Web3 teams, and what that means is, we're helping helping teams manage the end-to-end process of operations, governance, and payments, because we recognize all three things are coupled together very tightly. So far, we've been working with over 300 Web3 teams. We have about 20,000 contributors on our platform, and we work with any organizations from DeFi projects, protocols, NFT projects, and you name it. We work with them, and we've worked with some of the biggest names like Gitcoin, Radical, DYDX, and a whole bunch of other DAOs and projects. And from that experience, we've learned a lot. We work very closely with our partners that use Wonderverse, and we take a very collaborative approach in understanding deeply the workflow, the processes, to co-build a lot of the features that you'll see here today. A lot of it is either from direct conversations or indirect conversations to inform the way we build, because at the end of the day, the product we're building is for the users. I'm just going to jump right into it to show you a quick demo. Feel free to ask me any questions. I don't think I can see the chat right now, so if there's any questions, please feel free to speak up. I can answer them.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do a bit of a Q&A at the end of the demo, and we'll be happy. I think some questions will pop up on screen if we have them. And very nice intro. It sounds like, your reputation precedes you, and you must be delivering value to a lot of decentralized communities right now. So very curious to jump into this, and please lead the way, Ed.
Cool. Sounds great. Thanks. So what you see here on the screen right now is what we call the mission control. So we're really leaning into the Wonderverse and the space theme. We thought mission control is a very apt analogy for the way that we approach work and managing workspaces. And so from this mission control, we're trying to reduce the friction for contributors to contribute to the different projects that they're passionate about. as well as reducing the friction for operators and the admins of projects to manage the project. And so from this mission control, I can see everything that I need to do, things that are in progress, things that are in review, or things that are completed across the different organizations that I'm part of. So for example, I'm part of Sample DAO, which is a fake DAO that I created, as well as Wonder. And so if I click into this contributor workspace, what I'll see is my personal Kanban board of all the things that that I need to do and need to work on. So you'll see that in this example, this particular task is from Sample DAO, but this particular task is from Wonder. And even at the pod or sub DAO or guild level, which I'll get into. So from here, you can see all the things that that you need to work on in terms of tasks, in terms of bounties that that you're contributing to, or even proposals that you've created or that you're participating in, because we support governance and proposal workflow. And just going back to the mission control, on the operator side, because we recognize that you could be a contributor to different projects, but then also be an admin or operator for others. We want to also reduce the friction of the operator's decision-making, because typically they'll be involved in approving or declining organization requests. So anyone who wants to join your workspace or even just wants to join your pod. So you can quickly see the name of the person that's requesting access. You can quickly decline or approve. And you can also check what proposals have been created by the community, whether it's to give feedback on direction of the project or even just things like feature requests. You can click into it and see the proposals and quickly decline or approve. You can also review submissions, which I don't have right now, but you can also quickly approve or reject those. The next thing that you see here is what a typical workspace looks like. So I think we're all very familiar with sort of like this Kanban style of organization. We wanted to create something that was very familiar to folks in terms of how we think about work and things that you need to work on. So from here, you see all the things that that the DAO or the project is working on across the different pods. So for example, this create itinerary for DevCon Bogota, that is in the swag pod. This particular task is for the core contributors pod. This one is for the strategy pod. And what pods are really just a collection of contributors working towards a common goal. It depends on your preferred terminology. I think some folks refer to pods as guilds or sub DAOs. So we refer to them as pods. And from here, you can create pods that are either functional, like marketing, engineering, for example, or you can create it around a particular idea or project. So for example, Wonderverse has been sponsors of the recent Gitcoin funding round, focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I created a pod on GR15 DEI. And so from there, I can funnel all the work that's related to GR15 into this particular pod. The way that the Wonder is designed is that it's meant to be extremely flexible and customizable for projects of all different sizes and maturity. We recognize working with about 300 projects that projects come in all different sizes, but also that they evolve over time. And so we've created this structure that is very flexible and very customizable, which I'll get into in a second. But essentially, with Wonder, there's really 3 different levels of permissioning and access. You have the workspace level or the project level, in this case, Sample DAO. But then you have the particular pods, like Swag Pod, Marketing Pod, Engineering Pod, etc. And then finally, tasks or bounties and proposals. So within these 3, you can customize, who has access to them. You can customize the roles. Because you can imagine someone being a regular contributor to Sample DAO, but they're actually the pod leader for the marketing guild, as an example. And so, with Wonder, you can go into the different roles, and you can customize it based on the way that your project is set up. So by default, there's 3 different roles. There's an owner role, which just gives you access to all the permissions for this particular workspace. You can think of it as an admin. There's a core team role, which gives a subset of these activities. And then finally, a contributor role, which gives you like very basic access. So things like claiming tasks and bounties, participating in discussions, or creating proposals. But what you'll notice here is that, and this is what we believe makes Wonderverse very unique, is that the level of access is very detailed. So you'll see here, for this core team role, this particular role can create tasks, review tasks, add members, edit tasks, and manage comments. But you can easily decide, like, you know what, I actually don't want core team members to manage comments, so I'll turn that off. And instead, I'll create, maybe like a moderator role, and then select the permission of manage comment, and the moderator will now only have access to managing comments. The idea is that this is meant to reflect the various different roles that projects have, and it gives you a lot of flexibility because as your project evolves, the needs of what you need access to might be different. And so instead of, either you have like a super admin access, which gives you access to like everything, or you're like a contributor who just has access to nothing, this gives you the ability to customize like every single role and what it has access to.
All right. I think this is if I could jump in
Sure,
here, this seems like a really important part when it comes to, if you were just starting a DAO from scratch, it might be easy to spin up roles and do everything. But what can we do here for a DAO like Aavegotchi that's existed for 2+ years, and there's kind of this already existing infra? How can we import it over? And I think the answer lies, I see a very important button relating to Discord. Is there a Discord connection here?
Yes, I'm really glad you asked that question. That's a very good question. And so like we recognize that, like you said, a community might already have like very established roles and access levels, and it's very it would be a monumental task to import everything over from scratch. So what we did was created a integration with Discord, and so in this particular case, I've connected with my Discord server. So I love stationery. So I have this stationery lovers role. And so these are all the different roles on my server, and one of them being stationery lovers. So if you connect your Discord, you can import the roles from your Discord server and then select a particular role. And so anybody on my Discord server that has a stationery lovers role will automatically get access to the core team member role and the associated permissions. You could also do that with token gating. So you can, in this case, you might say, if you have at least one CryptoPunk, then you'll get access to this core team role. Or you could even gate it with just the ERC20 tokens. And then, we also have guild integration as well. So there's multiple ways of connecting your community and the associated roles to the roles on Wonder.
Okay, that's great. Very important. I also just want to interject here and mention I believe, have the co-founder of Wonderverse just hopping on stage with us here. So maybe after we finish the tour, we can get a conversation and hear from Andros to learn more about kind of I personally would love to learn more about the story behind the beginning of the kind of kernel and beginning of Wonderverse, and perhaps a bit more about vision of the future as well. But Andros, welcome to the stage. Mic check.
Thank you so much for having me, and I apologize for there was like a little problem on my audio setup, but yeah, pleasure to be here and really excited to chat a little bit more about us, and particularly to have a conversation about the future of Web3 organizations.
Absolutely. And I see you do have a CryptoPunk. So according to Ed's description of roles, you will be very powerful in the sample DAO. So that will also
I do have all the powers. That is right.
God mode initiated. Very well. Sorry. So Ed, what else are we missing here? I bet there's a few more features we should touch on before we dive into, the next year.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll just touch on maybe like one or two additional features. So one thing that I wanted to mention was that so lately we've been working with various projects and understanding sort of like what is top of mind and what are some of the top priorities of the different projects. And so like one of the things that keeps popping up is around governance and proposals and just like understanding like decision making for projects. I think given the current market conditions and interest cycle, I think there's a lot of introspection of different projects, and so decision making is top of mind. And so with that, we've built out this proposal module to help different projects with governance. And so the way that our module works is that we support two different types of decision making and proposals. We support off-chain votes. So because we believe that not everything needs to not all votes need to go on chain. So if it's around like product feedback or just like feedback on the direction of the project, we support social consensus or soft voting within Wonder. But then if something calls for a little bit more serious vote, then we also support snapshot integration and more formal voting. And so from here, you'll see that like you can easily do vote for or against proposals. And once the due date or the deadline of the vote has passed, you can approve this particular proposal and you can turn it into a project or a task that you can assign folks to work on. And of course, like you can participate in discussions around that. And then if something calls for a more on-chain vote, you can export it to Snapshot because we support Snapshot integration. For something like additional tokens should be issued for the strategy team, maybe you want to use Snapshot for on-chain voting and then use the particular nuanced type of votes that you prefer. Another thing that...
One question on that, because it's very interesting to me, is the kind of hierarchy of voting and the process. With AavegotchiDAO currently, we've been pretty successful using a two-step sig prop where we do what we call a signal proposal. And if it reaches quorum and it's in the positive, then it graduates to a core prop. And if it passes the core prop, then it's a proper improvement proposal. It passes and it's executable. How much flexibility, if any, is there with what you just showed us, that little kind of green arrow chart? What's the life cycle like? Does everything start at the left side there and work its way across, or can certain roles jump straight to on-chain voting, or how does that actually work in terms of what gets assigned to what kind of vote?
Yeah. So the way that it's set up, it's very flexible. So if I were to if I wanted to jump directly to an on-chain vote, let's say I was as admin of the swag pod, for example, and I decided like we should make hats for the next conference, I can go directly to a proposal and create a proposal and export a snapshot directly, skipping the soft vote, the off-chain voting. But with every proposal, like if you do create it, by default, there is soft voting, just so that like we want to make sure that like everyone has an opportunity to participate in the discussion before it advances. There's no hard and fast rule in terms of like saying that it must start with the soft vote. But I think from what we've seen, most organizations use it with the soft vote first and before gradually moving on to an on-chain vote.
Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, it's good to mention, like, you guys have been running for how long now? And so you already see like kind of what works and what doesn't, what's popular. Great. Like you could use it a million ways, but here's the most popular way, things like that.
Yeah, I think one of the most popular ways is just having very lightweight decision making with soft votes, because it's an opportunity for community members to give feedback or even participate and engage. Because I think from what we've seen, a lot of projects like might just jump directly to like something like very heavy. And I think with things that are very heavy, you typically will spend like a little bit more time before like actually giving your thoughts or feedback. But if it was something like, hey, we should, I don't know, throw a party, next week, or we should, reschedule some of our Discord events to another day. just like creating opportunities for community members to be engaged and give feedback. I think it gives more folks like a sense of ownership and feel that their voices are heard. So I would say that the soft vote has been a really popular feature amongst the different organizations we work with.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Yeah, I like that as well. That's why I stopped you there. I'm very curious about it. But please continue. What else have we not seen yet?
I think, yeah, so maybe I'll just show one more feature that I think makes Wonderverse very unique, and then we can jump into questions. And also, like, I'm happy to, like, when we go into the questions, if there's a question about particular features or things that we support, I can always jump back in. So one of the features that we launched recently, and it was to solve a problem of our own, is that Andros and I have been involved in, maybe like literally hundreds of Discord chats or Telegram groups. And so, like we found that by working with many different projects, it's really, to be honest, it's really hard to keep track of like, what needs to get done and by when and who's working on it. And so we built this collaboration feature where you can click on collaborations on the left side, and you can create a shared workspace between two organizations. So in this case, I'm just showing you one that we created with Seed Club because we're part of Seed Club. And from here, you create this shared workspace where Andros knows like what he needs to work on. But someone from Seed Club will also know like what they're assigned, and it inherits a lot of the features from like a regular workspace. Primarily includes the Discord notifications, because we support connecting to Discord and getting task notifications. So anytime a task or bounty or proposal is created or completed, the organization will get a notification, as well as you can get a personal DM if you've been mentioned or you've been assigned some work. So I think that's a very powerful feature. That coupled with the way that Wonderverse is structured is incredibly powerful, especially if you work in partnerships and work with different organizations, because so this is a shared workspace, and these are all the tasks. What I showed you before with the mission control is that it consolidates all the tasks, bounties, and proposals that you're involved in into one single board, right? So if you were, let's say, in a partnership role and you're working with 50 different organizations, of course, the collaborations workspace is great because, again, both parties will get pinged on deadlines and everyone knows what they're working on. But in my opinion, like what's even more powerful is by going to your personal Kanban board, you can actually see like all the work that needs to get done across the different organizations you're part of. So you don't have to go to 50 different instances of boards to see what you need to work on. You can actually just go to your personal Kanban board from your mission control, which I think like really turbocharges like any partnership discussions, or if you're working with different organizations, because it will just make your life a lot easier.
Absolutely. I mean, if it's one Kanban for all, then it gets pretty overwhelming pretty quickly. And so this looks like a key area where you're able to personalize what you're working on, perhaps across multiple DAOs, and then also jump into kind of a collaborative area as well.
Yeah.
No, very impressive. Maybe this is a good point to stop and turn to Andros a bit and talk about, the background of the project and the formation of it. Andros, we've heard a lot here in terms of the DAOs that are already using Wonderverse, and one that jumped out at me is one I'm a big fan of is Gitcoin. And so, I mean, kind of share a bit about where this project came from, the origin story, the lore, and maybe where Gitcoin fits into all of this, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this kind of started from last year. I got very much into NFTs. I was previously already in, I guess, the crypto space. I'd worked at Ripple in sort of early 2018. But yeah, I would just deep dive into some communities. Like, obviously I was part of the CryptoPunk community, and then I got into the Loot community, and then after that, just rabbit holed myself into DAOs and decentralized communities, where I thought the energy was like just amazing. Everyone was trying to contribute, everyone was trying to help, and sort of make the organization that they're part of succeed as much as possible. But there was just absolute chaos, as you can imagine, and that's kind of when we started building Wonderverse. We also came out of a sort of something called the kernel, which is a sort of was part of Gitcoin. I think now it's back to being part of Gitcoin. But kernel is essentially like an incubator program for individuals who want to explore what they want to work on in Web3. And so that's kind of where the relationship with Gitcoin started then. And so, today, as we've blossomed into what Ed described as sort of the coordination layer for Web3. And recently we've gone full circle and had the pleasure to sponsor the latest Gitcoin cause round for GR15 for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so as part of those efforts as well, we've actually sort of worked with other partners like Kraus House, like gldnXross, etc., to actually Aragon, etc., to basically create more opportunities like bounties and tasks, and to actually enable people from grantee organizations like Meta Gamma Delta, Surge Women, Blue DAO, etc., to actually have more access to contribute to Web3 organizations. So, we've done a lot of work with Gitcoin, and then we're about to do a lot more, especially, we're actually about to publish a grants module that could perhaps work with the grants protocol that Gitcoin is working on. So big fans of Gitcoin, obviously, and very keen to see how we can, continue to work together.
No, wonderful. I think there is a question about, you've built a lot here in a short amount of time based on the fact that you mentioned, I think, a year, right? So could you speak a bit about, the infrastructure, the team behind this? If something like AavegotchiDAO were to onboard, what is our expectation in terms of deliverables, a roadmap ahead, and funding to make sure that it doesn't have a short life cycle or something to that effect? It certainly doesn't look like it. It looks like a very well executed program. But what is the background there and the state of the team?
Yeah, so currently we're a team of 9. We ourselves operate a little bit like a DAO, even though we're like I guess like a venture funded company, but we like to operate in a sort of decentralized way where we work with contributors. Actually, we work with contributors all over the world, in the Philippines, in Africa, in India as well. So, we sort of work with our contributors via our own platform, kind of like top-feeding our own tool. And that's actually where we figured out a lot of our initial features was like just through the difficulties in interacting with them. And in terms of exact deliverables, I think like, I don't know if there was like a question about cost, but currently we work really closely with partners on just figuring out exactly what use cases are. I think you mentioned earlier that, we have been in this space for a year, but at the same time, it's constantly evolving. Like we're always, we're always seeing new innovation in governance or operations. That's exactly, I think, like why we work so closely with partners, is because we want to understand, these new changes and see how we can build a product that fits like the exact use case. And when we work really closely with someone, we want to figure out, the needs and the future of that organization and build accordingly. And that's how we come up with a lot of our own features as well and generalize those.
Great. On the funding side, is this funded in a kind of traditional way? Are there, was there a seed round, things like that, or is this totally self-funded, or what's the background on that side? There's plenty of runway, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we're funded in a sort of traditional way in a seed round, and we have enough runway to hope to move us past this bear market. And yeah, we're really excited to continue building with our partners to obviously ensure that the future Web3 organizations will succeed. I think, if anything, these past couple of weeks have shown that we need more and more decentralized entities and communities, but more importantly as well, like to improve transparency and accountability in different organizations, and that's a lot of what we're trying to build.
Yeah, that's definitely resonates with what we're trying to do at AavegotchiDAO. We see ourselves as a gaming protocol, an open source protocol, and we want to be able to make sure that the talents within the community are able to coordinate and build what they want to build on top of the protocol or contribute to securing the protocol itself. And I feel like the traditional, the familiar Kanban board coupled with the power of Web3 is definitely the way to go. We've been looking at a way to do this, and I guess what might be useful here is a quick walkthrough of, let's just assume tomorrow we want AavegotchiDAO to go in with Wonderverse and get started. What are the first steps? What would that look like? I see, Ed, you just joined us, so this may be a perfect question for you. Welcome.
Yeah, sorry, I was clicking the comments tab, but then accidentally clicked on sign up for free, and then it redirected me away.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I came back and I caught what Andros was saying about, like, we do work very closely with the different projects that are currently using Wonder. And I think so one of the first steps when we work with a partner is we have a conversation to understand what are some of the top priorities and things that are top of mind for their community, like what are their objectives, what are they trying to accomplish, and how they're trying to accomplish them, and what are some of the challenges, and like how we might be able to support and help. But after those initial conversations, we typically help them create a workspace within Wonder. I mean, technically, like any projects could create a workspace right now because it is open sign up. But with the partners that we do interact with, like, we do like to create a workspace for them, share some of the walkthrough videos narrated by someone whose voice you'll be very familiar with, i.e. me, and some documentation on like how to get set up. But then we'll also work with the teams, especially the operations teams, governance teams, to like help them also set up or give suggestions on like how to set up their Wonder workspace, and also like help them brainstorm like how to bring their community over as well. If they do have any sort of like operations type of challenges that requires a little bit more support, we're also partnered with several partners that focus specifically on solving some of these issues. Like, for example, like we're partnered with Bankless Consulting to offer more ops support for the projects that do need it. Or if they're requiring some support around like community, like we're partnered with WGMI. So we also have like a roster of trusted partners that we work with to solve like specific problems. And then from there, like we just stay in touch with the different partners using our product. I mentioned that like we do really like to take a very collaborative and like co-building, co-creating approach to the product. A lot of the features that I showed you today was like a direct result of like working with these partners and understanding what their pain points are. Like Metrics DAO, like we worked with them to understand like what is the process to reward regular contributors. And so like we built out the analytics and reporting module based on like the findings that we had with those conversations. And so, yeah, like I think we always encourage our partners not to be shy if they have any like requests or if they have any ideas, because like we're always super open to listening to what our current users need or require, and we're super down to like build too. So
Well, that is music to anyone's ears that has a DAO and is thinking about not wanting to just figure out the process all alone. It's like, oh, you have this great platform, but we have to figure it all out ourselves. Or this kind of white glove solution, a little bit of guidance and a bit of customer service can go a long way as a value add when considering how and how to go about, moving to that next phase and partnering with the right platforms. So could you, if you don't mind, do you have the opportunity to screen share again instead of looking at our beautiful faces? I think people would love to see the product a bit more, and maybe we can go back and revisit certain parts of the platform while we take a few AMA questions. And while we wait for those to come up, I can lead with one. You mentioned that there was support for guilds, and Aavegotchi, especially with the Gotchiverse now live for a few months, we've seen a huge kind of expansion in various grassroots guilds popping up, as well as major guilds like YGG and Blackpool coming in to join us. So what is the guild angle here? And would it be, they're all kind of building in their own way. It's not uniform. So I'm kind of curious, if there's a way for the guilds to have their own kind of pod. I guess it would be the equivalent of like a pod that ties into the greater Aavegotchi DAO through Wonderverse.
Yeah. So if can you see my screen? I just I think I'm sharing it.
I don't think we're sharing yet, but maybe
okay.
our
Sorry.
producers can do it, or maybe it's on your side. Not sure.
Okay.
We'll give it a minute, and yeah, I think guilds would love to hear about this part.
Okay, awesome. So we have integration with Guild XYZ. So if you were to connect, like let's say like the Wonderverse guild or instance of Guild XYZ, then you can port over your guild membership and relationships there. But it's essentially like a really quick way for you to import organizational relationships into Wonderverse like very quickly. And so like because of that, then you can set it up such that with what you mentioned about the pod structure, like once you've made that connection, then you can actually go to like your workspace and actually create like specific pods that if you want to funnel specific guilds to, then you can set it up. So for example, like if I went back to the swag pod, for example, like if I had like a swag guild, then I can go to settings for swag pod. And then let's say, like I want to connect, a particular role to like core team. I don't have it connected in this instance because it's staging, but then I can connect the Guild XYZ relationships directly to or map it to the particular roles within here, so that if someone were to be part of, like, let's say the swag guild of Sample DAO, then they'll automatically get access to the specific roles that I've specified within the pod. So it reduces the effort to set up guilds and an organizational structure, to reduce it like by quite a bit. And also, like, once you've set it, you can kind of forget it, because like then in the future, like anytime you've update the relationships on guild, it'll just reflect that within Wonder and the associated pods.
Okay, but I got one question. I'm a little confused on how we define the guild, and maybe there's multiple ways. So I noticed there was the GitHub connection there. We have different kind of guilds. Some guilds do have a GitHub. Other guilds maybe exist mostly through Discord or Telegram, mostly Discord. So are we able to say, like, here's Aavegotchi DAO, and the roles from the Aavegotchi Discord help define your roles within this greater DAO through Wonderverse? But if you're part of, for example, we have the Portal Mages. If you're part of the Portal Mages Guild or Gotchi Mafia, another one, and you're in their Discord, is there a way we can extend our certain rights to those other Discords? Is that what we're talking about here, or is that a?
So there's definitely a way to create pods and make sure that, like, for example, notifications that are created within the pod, for example, what you just mentioned with Gotchi Mages, like all the tasks and proposals and bounties that get created will ping directly to that channel, and then also be connected to those roles. A lot of times we see like guilds sort of the other sort of way that we can define them as are like sub DAOs, so they can operate very autonomously. They can add their own wallets, they can have their own payment methods. And then obviously with the collaboration workspaces, there's actually another way where, for example, as you said, like YGG spin up a guild, you can actually manage that through like a collaboration workspace as well, where like you can actually coordinate work between the two, and have that as like a way to spin out a guild as well. So there are multiple ways you can do it.
No, that's important. The flexibility, because everyone is experimenting and setting things up in different ways, using different tooling. And I guess, I already thought in the back of my mind that the easy way is we could always, of course, extend a role to the Portal Mage participants in the main Aavegotchi DAO Discord if we needed to, and easily go by roles. But that's good news. That's awesome that we would be able to do that. While we wait for questions to come in, I think our producer will have a few. I have one that's kind of a random brainstorm here. So this is pretty off script. We'll see if we can tackle it live. If not, no problem. But it's fun to talk about. So we've got the Metaverse, the Gotchiverse, with what we call the Citadel. And it has about 50 different districts. It's broken up in all these various districts. And different guilds tend to have a presence and congregate within one district. So imagine a grid, bunch of square, large plots of land, and then a certain guild like hangs out in that neighborhood. That's their district. I wonder, we'd love to get to a point where there's more local maintenance of that district empowered to certain members of the DAO. And it's just, as I listen to this and I see the way we can get pretty granular, there would probably be a way where we could, give roles to members based on the districts that they're active in, and they could actually, have their own Kanban to work on things that improve their district, somewhere down the road. Does that make sense to you guys? Does that seem like something that would not be an issue with Wonderverse?
Yeah, I think based on what you've described, that wouldn't be a problem, because you could either create various pods and then assign roles within those pods to the appropriate people, or if you want to if you want to spin it out in such a way that it's its own sort of like organization, like very autonomously, then I think using that collaboration workspaces could also work, because you can imagine, like essentially like each district is its own organization. And then like they have a lot more power and flexibility in terms of organizing like their own board, but still like, sort of like connect back to like the mothership or the main community. So yeah, I think there's a couple of ways that can be approached.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun to me. Oh, here come the questions. We got one from Tyler Deedham. You briefly hit on price, but could you be a little bit more specific for the low end, high end? How do you guys generate revenue, I guess, and furthermore to that question?
Yeah, so currently we are, the platform itself is free to use. We work very closely with partners, as we kind of mentioned, to really want to try and like figure out our value add, and want to have like a fair pricing, because I think in a lot of scenarios like GitHub or Notion, like the per seat model just doesn't really work, because like someone will come into the GitHub or the Notion, maybe they'll just glance at things and then suddenly that's a seat, which just isn't very sustainable for decentralized communities. So we want to create like a much more tiered pricing in the future, where for example, each active contributor who like completes a task will count for a seat, which will then get you a guest seat, and that's kind of like the sort of average pricing. And then for more enterprisey kind of ideas, where we partner, as we mentioned, with Bankless Consulting to actually help more in a more hands-on way with operations, that would be like an enterprise or consultancy kind of pricing model. So that's kind of like the two different tiers that we have.
Okay, so there's two tiers, and it sounds a bit like it's not a freemium premium model. It's more like everyone can access Wonderverse, start up a DAO, run the Kanban, do all of that. But let's say my suspicion is if there's a bounty given? Let's say the admins create a bounty and then the contributors come in and they execute on that. Is there a fee at that point? That's where I would expect maybe a fees model.
There is no fee. There's no fee model on the bounties because we want to obviously enable you to do it as seamlessly as possible. Our aim is to go for like a subscription model, obviously when we become a core part of your workflow. So that would be like the freemium model, which we will implement in the future. But yeah, like our goal is not to stop people from like paying out bounties. We think that's like a race to the bottom. If you look at other payment processes like Stripe, etc., like it's charging a fee on that would just become, I think, like it will prevent I think partners from doing the actions that we want them to take, which is to pay out bounties, to encourage more people to join their communities, things like that.
Right. So totally understand that. It's kind of reminiscent of the royalties debate right now. It's like, well, some people call it a royalty, some people call it a fee. And if there's a platform, it's a race to the bottom. So totally understand that. Very, very forward looking on that. And so it's more of a subscription model is what I'm hearing. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it will be a subscription model. Yes.
All right. That's great. That's great. I think that makes sense. Especially given all the value add and everything. I don't see any issue there at all. And I think this is a very well thought out, well executed platform here. I'm super impressed. Is there any on-chain aspect that had to be audited, anything like that? I know most of it is either off-chain or taps into infrastructure that already exists. Can you talk about, is there any smart contract aspect here that we should be aware of?
There's no smart contracts that we that we directly write ourselves. We integrate with Gnosis, Snapshot, and a bunch of other open APIs like gldnXross. We use Lit protocol APIs. I think that's the beauty of Web3 is what we realize is that we're kind of building this coordination layer where we plug into other, already audited, very established, I guess in Web3, very established means they've been around for maybe more than a year, but yeah, like they've been tested and been used by others, and we're just able to plug and play with all these different pieces. This is a little bit of alpha for the Gotchiverse, but like we're actually about to release being able to mint completed tasks and bounties as NFTs on Polygon, and with that we work with someone called Mint Kudos, and we believe that's a great way to actually plug into like data sovereignty, because you can actually take what you've completed on chain, even if we fail today, or for some reason we just completely shut down, you still have this credential that like, hey, I did something for this organization, and I think that's like very important, and obviously feeds into other parts of what we want to do in the future, which is like just massive gamification. We're very bullish on games and Web3, and that's exactly why we're so bullish on Gotchiverse as well.
Well, that's very interesting. That's what I'm seeing in the comments here. We're listening in. Everybody's in the Discord chat at Aavegotchi, and they're always interested in gamifying governance. We want to make it fun, just like how the Aavegotchi earns experience points and levels up for voting on the snapshot votes. I could very well see something similar with an integration here, and then the other big conversation that's going forward, I think it's gonna snowball, is reputation, on-chain reputation. We've all been kind of talking about it. It's been more theoretical, and you can see with things like what you just described, or Lens, or some of these kind of profiles and avatars, we're finally getting to a point where your badges and your POAPs and all of these things are going to matter a lot and congregate under some sort of Web3 avatar or personality. So yeah, that is some good alpha, and I think it's totally in line with where we need to go. As we approach the kind of end of time here, is there anything else we should touch on, or kind of put a bow tie on this?
I think maybe something that.
What do we have here? Jared Dornett asks, can a specific wearable qualify people for certain power? And I think he means power within the Wonderverse platform. Like for guild channel, okay, that's more within the Gotchiverse. We have our guild channeling. Let me think here. So yeah, our wearables are 1155s. The Aavegotchi itself is a 721. They stack together with the 998 standard, so you're kind of like stacking NFTs into one thing. Is there any differentiation between token gating with an 1155 or a 721 or anything like that?
No, we work with any sort of non-fungible token standard. So either 721 or 1155 would work.
Okay, great. And to touch on that, it reminds me of what Ed, you brought up earlier. You do integrate with Snapshot, but I thought I saw something there that almost looked like a alternative to Snapshot. Is there anything like that native to Wonderverse, or is it best practice, just go ahead and integrate with Snapshot, bring that into the fold?
Yeah. So what you may have seen, it was the soft voting, like within the Wonder platform. So yeah, within proposals, like let's say I just this is an old one, but also on staging. Maybe if I go to an actual, let's see. Yeah, if I go to sample DAO and I go to proposals, if I were to open, okay, I'm encountering an error. Yeah.
Maybe your wallets. I don't know, but we can just talk about it in theory.
But yeah, like there. Yeah. So there is like just voting for and voting against a proposal, like within the Wonder app. So if you didn't want to, if you didn't want to like have an on-chain vote via Snapshot, like you can just do it within each of these proposals.
Okay, you said the word app, which made me immediately think of mobile, and we haven't really talked about that at all. But is it an app with mobile support, or is this more of a DApp that we would typically use on desktop?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So mobile is on a roadmap. In fact, we're actually working on it right now. When we were at DevCon, I think we were part of an onboarding event with WGMI, where we were onboarding locals to Web3, via mobile. And I think that really highlighted the need to improve the mobile experience for not just Wonderverse, but a lot of Web3 dApps. And so that is top of mind right now, because it enables Web3 to be more inclusive of geographies, or even just like folks that prefer to access a lot of these services and products like on their mobile.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's the next big unlock for the industry is when we get over the hill and figure out how to get more mobile access, whether it's for project management or gamification or trading or whatever it may be, as long as it's on chain and also through your mobile phone, that could be very, very powerful. So yeah, that's very good to know. It's on the roadmap, and it's a very impressive tour here. I'm pretty excited about what you guys are doing. We'll definitely be talking about it in the Aavegotchi DAO. We have our community call every Sunday in the Aavegotchi Discord, and we have an ongoing conversation, of course, as well in the DAO channels. So I suspect we'll be communicating more and more in the future and reaching out, and hopefully, onboarding looks smooth. We're just excited for you guys, and wish you best of luck in the future, and hope a lot of people discover what you guys are offering through this conversation we had today.
Yeah, I think one thing that might, thanks for having us. I think one thing that might be worth showing as well is this idea of like a leaderboard as we talk about gamification as well. I don't know if we showed that already, but
no, we haven't. And I think gamification is the best part. So please let us know about anything on that front.
We might need to just screen share again, but in any case, like just to describe what we have is this idea of like in any time period you can sort of query who's been completing the most tasks and the most points, and I think that's been like a good way to actually like spur people on to obviously move up in that ladder. So but yeah, like I think it's a great way to sort of also quantify like who's done what. Obviously not in in too much of a competitive way, but just like a little incentive to play. Oh, in these last 2 weeks, XYZ has done a lot of work.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of context in terms of like the activity and what's being completed. So this analytics reporting tab gives you exactly like what Andros mentioned, both at the overall project level, but then also if I were to go to design pod, for example, this leaderboard would look very different because it's mostly Ben and Adam that's been working on design work. But the idea is that you can quickly see what Ben has been working on to give you more context and understand like, okay, Ben has been mostly focused on like pushing out like min kudos type activities. And then even if you wanted to reward your regular contributors, you can even use points to measure like, points can be used in a very flexible way. You could use it for measuring complexity of tasks, or you could use it for like in lieu of any social tokens that you have not yet launched. So for example, like Terry over here, he's completed 8 tasks, but he has 3 points. That actually might be worth a lot more than Adam, who's completed 11 tasks but 0 points, because maybe his Terry's tasks are much more complex. But yeah, it's a really good way to just get more context, but then also encourage people to complete things, because I know that when we launched the this leaderboard, I know Ben just sort of went ham, and he like completed a whole bunch of activities, and we just watched this gamification in action, and it was just like a very exciting to see that it was actually working.
It can do wonders. I mean, for work, we call it analytics. For play, we call it leaderboards. And at the end of the day, we all want to compare and see what everyone else is doing at a glance, and it's quite valuable. And it makes me think about, it probably would be very easy. I'm sure the points are off-chain, right? But we could look at those points and then distribute our Aavegotchi experience points based off of those, either 1-to-1 or whatever conversion we want to do.
Yeah, exactly. We're also integrated with Coordinape. So yeah, I think this will support that process too, if that's something that our communities are interested in.
No, that's really good. I'm glad we fit that in, because I think that's a very valuable aspect to this. So excellent. On that note, where can people go to learn more about Wonderverse, whether it's for AavegotchiDAO or any DAO, or somebody who's just looking to get started? I see Wonderverse XYZ on your handle here, but maybe there's more to it.
Yeah, so I think for the folks that are listening today, and even for the Aavegotchi community, yeah, feel free to reach out to Andros or I. Like, we are like super open door. So actually, if you just replace that bar next to Ed and just put ed@wonderverse.xyz, that's my email. And yeah, like if folks are looking to like either create workspace or even just like learn more, yeah, they can contact me via email or Andros, and yeah, we can start conversation. You're also welcome to hop into our Discord and just like ask questions there as well. So yeah, we can be reached like via many different means.
That's wonderful. I think that'll be great. And I assume can follow you on Twitter as well. I'll be looking for 0x Andros, and Ed, what's your Twitter handle? Assuming you're big on it.
Yeah, it's jackalpha_xyz.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been another wonderful edition of Aavegotchi Explores, and we look forward to seeing you in the Gotchiverse. Thank you so much, Ed and Andros, for your time. And I hope we all connect again very, very soon, and in a coordinated way.
Love it. Thank you so much for having us, Jesse.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.